My addiction looked like basically using cannabis as a coping mechanism to relieve me from stress, and also in the social aspect as well. So I was using the cannabis to socialize, using it to cope, as I said, with the stresses of life. So there was like two kinds of characters that formed when I was a user of cannabis. One was basically a working user. So basically, I would go to work, and then instead of having like a glass of wine to relax after work, I would use cannabis to relax after work. And then the other user was basically out of a job and basically using it to kind of get through the day and not be bored throughout the day as well. I did also drink alcohol, but I wasn't a heavy drinker. But there was times where I used to go to parties and stuff, and I would over drink, and it would put me in a blackout phase. Didn't really serve the purpose of being merry and socializing with friends as someone who managed their use of alcohol. So I was using about 1 to 2 grams a day, and it all depended on how much I was I was able to get at the same time as well. During the period where I was actively selling cannabis and other drugs, I was I had an ample amount of cannabis nearby, so I was able to use that to my advantage. So I would smoke more during that time than I did when I was most probably working. I would smoke it with tobacco, mainly organic tobacco. So, and then I would mix it in with some cannabis, and then I would just smoke it in a Rizla. So yes, my first admission into a psychiatric hospital was in 2013, and prior to that, I was smoking for about a year after coming back from IB5 and trying it for the first time. So I was basically admitted for depression and also suicidal ideation that resulted in me being admitted into hospital. But I wasn't treated for my use of cannabis, so I didn't receive any kind of substance misuse work or anything like that. It was only later in my last admission in 2019 through to 2022. So I was admitted and inpatient for 3 years. That resulted in me doing psychological work, substance misuse work, and FITMO as well, which is fire intervention, because my conviction was a an arson, because I wanted to take my life. So I thought it was a wise decision to take my life through fire. And I got that idea through watching a film, actually, which is Law Abiding Citizen. And yeah, I kind of reenacted it, and fortunately, I got out alive. I had kind of conversation with the Most High, God, or the creator of the universe, that if God wanted me to be alive, then to get me out of the fire. If He didn't want me to be alive, um, then let me stay in the fire. And I was having schizophrenic episodes then as well. So that's my actual diagnosis. So I live with schizophrenia. Yeah, that was my last admission into hospital. So it really showed its difference from my first admission to my last admission, where I really um, got the support and work that I needed to do for staying off cannabis and substances. So I could tell you now that I've been off substances, including alcohol, for the last 4 years. Yeah, it's really worked in my favor. But yeah, between 2013 and 2019, there was, I think, my psychiatrist and the care team calculated it to be about 13 admissions. So those were all different lengths, from 3 years, which was the maximum, to 6 months, to a month, to a day, to a week. So they're all various lengths of admissions. The use of my cannabis was a part to play in the trigger of my schizophrenic episodes. However, they feel that I have a recurring schizophrenia, which means that even if the cannabis and the stress wasn't there, that I would have still had the episodes, and that's something I'm beginning to kind of accept, because I was under the impression that it was the cannabis, but the doctors have said otherwise, due to the character that came out of the episodes. So there was like hearing voices, thinking people could hear my thoughts. So I'll be watching TV and I would think that that the TV presenter was talking about me or talking to me, or even listening to the radio as well. I would be told by the voices to go to a certain location and meet someone. But in the last 3 years, I haven't heard any voices. I don't believe people can hear my thoughts. And that's all kind of part of the psychological work that I've done. And I feel not smoking cannabis has been a part of that as well, because I think there was a lot of anxiety around me smoking cannabis, and thinking I'll get caught, or the acceptance within my family as well circle wasn't really there. So I would kind of be hiding it away and not really being open about it. So I think that kind of played a part onto like my stresses and my anxiety as well. I think what contributed to me being addicted to drugs, mainly cannabis, is isolation. So I felt a bit isolated at times when I was going through a poor financial situation. So I would just smoke in my house, draw the curtains, and it made me feel relaxed. It made me feel free at the same time, and free of my worries. And that was the coping mechanism that I was using then. So it was instantaneous. I didn't need to kind of think about anything particularly. And I felt at the same time that it was kind of heightening my awareness and heightening my consciousness at the same time. And my social circle contributed to that as well. Money worries. The impact that cannabis and substances had on my relationships was that, especially with my family relationships, was that they didn't accept my use of cannabis and they didn't understand why I was using it. No one in my family, my immediate family, was a smoker. So I would say that it drew me away from my family, because I wanted to be accepted for who I was, and I felt that cannabis was a part of me, so they need to accept the cannabis as part of me. And also it affected my relationships with my friends, because I would kind of isolate because I wasn't kind of motivated to do anything else apart from just sit inside and smoke and just listen to music or just watch TV. So yeah, those had a major impact on how I kind of socialized with my immediate circle. But there was some circles that used cannabis and it had a positive, at the time it was a positive impact, because I was able to socialize and feel accepted for my use of cannabis, and not looked down upon. It didn't impact me engaging with probation, but at the same time, I don't think I was honest with probation that I was using. And maybe if I had been honest with probation that I was using, maybe they would have put me forward to a course or some services that would have been beneficial, to getting me the right help and going in the right direction. And who knows, that might have enabled me to have had finished my course, my degree. Yeah, and who would have known as well that the fire may have never happened, because I would have been in the right frame of mind and been working on my relationships with my family and my friends, which I'm doing now. But it's just a shame that things had to get to the scale that it got to. I suppose what triggered my relapses was just the amount of stress that I was enveloped in, really. And then also my kind of social dispositioning. And what I mean by that is like not feeling that I belonged in a society that I was living in. And that made me feel isolated, to the point where I would return to cannabis. And each time I used was as a result of the only coping mechanism I knew to kind of reduce my anxiety or reduce my stress, and feel whole in a sense. However, I say that this was my coping mechanism to battle with stress and anxiety, but I would have further anxieties because I was looking for my next high or my next hit. And when you have financial difficulties, it can be difficult to try and find how you're gonna gather money together to buy the next draw or the next eighth. But most of my relapse is coincided with a mental relapse as well. So it was like a double whammy, really. I feel what has helped me in my recovery journey and what has helped me to succeed in abstaining from alcohol, drugs, cannabis, is that I have accepted that these things don't serve a purpose. And when I mean they don't serve a purpose anymore, it's not beneficial to me. They may have been beneficial at one point in my life to socialize, to have confidence, to speak to a girl in terms of alcohol, or or to de-stress after a day of work. But as I am now, I have other coping mechanisms that I've learned while as an inpatient and just doing research, and that can be stuff like meditation, yoga, exercise in general, going for a walk in the park, and speaking. I think just very much speaking about what's on my chest, what's on my mind, and to family and friends, and to my support network. And part of my support network is Head in the Game, which is a mental health football charity, which I started while I was an inpatient in Maidstone, and they really helped me to feel more confident and reintegrate back into the community after a long spell of just being in the hospital and just knowing the hospital grounds. So that those things there kind of elevate me to off the ground, and they elevate me off the ground, and also they ground me to a place where I can manage and deal with the challenges that I face. I feel as a practicing Christian, my faith plays a big part. So I go to church one day a week on a Sunday. I also attend prayer meetings and also Bible studies as well, one day a week. And I think the role that I've taken within the church has definitely benefited me as well. So I actively serve within the church. So I pack away the tables, I set up the tables, I set up the chairs. I also am part of the welcome group team as well. So I think what kind of holds me in place to kind of feel valued is when I have a sense of purpose and a role within society. So that's why I'm part of the Healthy Living Centre in Dartford as well. So not only in church, I have an active role. I have an active role within the community, and I recently started a job with the NHS as a peer engagement worker. So having an active role in the life of psychiatry and mental health has benefited me to have a sense of purpose, have value, and have meaning as well. So these are things that have supported and impacted me to have an active recovery. And when I say active recovery, I know that you don't recover in one day, you don't recover in 1 month. It's something that is continuous, and you are continuously achieving through what one does. So those are a few of my coping mechanisms, and they're just not even mechanisms themselves. They are environments that I've included myself within. So taking myself out of environments that aren't healthy or beneficial to me has been a big part of my recovery and my journey. What has allowed me to recover, I think, the most is my honesty and my openness. I don't shy away with the fact that I have an addiction, and I don't shy away with the fact that I live with a mental condition, and I'm open about it. The more you open up the doors towards a road of recovery, then you can see the light better, and can better place your feet one step at a time in a more uniformed manner. Yeah.